who are they trying to keep us in a dystopian reality?
You want me to name names? That's the false light. It's that. I don't even use the word spiritual because it's been hijacked and co-opted. And then if we dove really deeply frankly, from an enlightened perspective, we would start to understand that the subconscious actually is the Akashic records. We would actually be able to see our complete and utter history, the complete and utter history of everything. Earth was moved here. The moon was moved here first. And then Earth was moved here. For those that are interested, that's what gravity is. That's actually what it is. So reincarnation, in a sense, doesn't really exist. The role of Christopher Columbus, his mission in that life was to bring about, and what I'm talking about is ancient supreme teachings about self-realization. This is the most crucial time in the history of humanity right now.
Welcome, everybody, to another interview on the RJ Spina channel. In this one, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. For those of you who haven't seen the interview RJ recently released, I would say it was a very illuminating interview. It's going to be linked down below, and a lot transpired. That video was posted. It was falsely taken down for copyright claims, and then reposted, and 2 days later, it's got over 100,000 views. So safe to say it's making quite an impact. Wouldn't you say so, RJ?
Yeah, the truth resonates. So it's a message of clarity, liberation, and empowerment. And I think for some people that was quite scary.
Yep. So if you guys missed that, be sure to check it out. It'll be linked down below. It was really, really good. It was honestly one of my favorite interviews that RJ's done. So what we're going to do in this video, though, that interview got a ton of feedback. I believe over 2,500 comments on that interview, right, RJ? Something to that effect. So in this video, we're going to be addressing a lot of the common questions that people had, and we're actually going to be pulling in some of your guys' comments. So if you comment on that video, you might see your comment in this one. We're going to be answering those things and kind of breaking some things down, letting RJ shed some light on some topics that people were interested in that video. Before we get into that, though, RJ's actually doing a drop-in class. We can't share a ton of information, but RJ, you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit mysterious, but even just the subject matter, if we put what it was about, it would get taken down immediately. It is in regards to healing. And I want to share what it is that I tangibly experience and understand through a heightened state of consciousness and through the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I've worked with, and what it is that I've discovered in terms of ill health and health and how it really works. So it's in regards to that. I wish I could be more specific, but again, if I am, it'll just get taken down. So if you're interested in hearing what you won't hear anywhere else, it'll be completely and utterly illuminating and mind expanding. So if health and healing for yourself and for others is of interest to you, I would check out the class.
Absolutely. That'll be linked in the comment section and the description. Probably be one of the first or second links down there. Kind of interesting that both of these things played out around the same time as well. We did not plan for the class to come out, obviously, that we couldn't talk about, as well as the interview that was taken down falsely. But like you said, RJ, the truth resonates, and oftentimes the truth is what people want to suppress for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, they only ever want to censor the truth. And just based upon the responses, the amount of responses, obviously a chord was hit. And we'll just dive a little further in that in terms of our conversation today. It's a very, very important message, and I'm happy to talk about it even further.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's not delay any longer. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. RJ, the specific purpose of that video was to talk about reality creation and how reality creation actually works. For anybody who might have missed that or missed the video altogether, can you kind of break it down for us?
Yeah, the entire real thrust of what I was talking about is to be a creator rather than a consumer. And rather than disempowering ourselves by putting our attention and allowing, whether it's religious figures or politicians or extraterrestrials, to disempower us and put them in a position of power. And so the message is about self-empowerment and liberation. And what you put your attention on grows. So the basic fundamentals, and there's a lot more to it, but whatever you put your attention on, your attention is energy. And where your attention goes, your energy flows. And whatever your attention is on will grow. And so by having our attention outwardly focused on information of any kind is actually disempowering. So what starts to happen is we're giving our creative powers away by being a consumer of information. Meanwhile, the I am is whole and complete. No one needs information. No one needs to reach out. No one actually needs guidance from a religious figure, from a politician, from an extraterrestrial. We were all built whole and complete. And it's about working with ourselves in that way. If we all desire our reality that is built upon love and wisdom and compassion and knowledge, we have to first cultivate these things within ourselves. And that is the only way that is going to go, the only way that is actually going to happen. So by putting our attention outwardly on any of those things, especially when it's couched with fear, beware, chaos, madness, we are creating that by putting our attention on it, no matter how much it is justified. We are putting our attention on that. We are creating that experience for ourselves. And this is part of the whole message, to empower ourselves, to liberate ourselves from those things, and to empower ourselves. And everything I embody and share is all about that. How to become self-realized and then create from that inner perfection, rather than reaching out, which is disempowerment, and then giving power over to examples, religious figures, politicians, or extraterrestrials. The body was not designed to have itself be led by the conditioned mind. The body was perfectly designed for it to take instruction from the I am, or the causal body. And when we operate as a consumer rather than a creator and an emanation coming from us and outwardly, this is actually how we get disharmony. This is how we get fear. This is also, to take it further, how we get a dystopian timeline, by taking in information that is fear-based, no matter how it's justified, putting our attention on it. We then resonate with that, and we emanate that frequency based upon a heightened state of emotionality, and we literally create it. Now, I'm not sure if this is news or this is basics, but either way, what you put your attention on grows. So my suggestion in terms of full empowerment and liberation is to put the attention on, within, as, for, and by the self, and let the self unfold. And when we create from that directly is actually when we will create the enlightened society that we all truly desire to experience.
I think the other piece to this, RJ, is obviously the collective nature of it. So we all think about how we consume or how we create as individuals, but collectively it becomes even more powerful, right? Whenever everyone's kind of following suit.
Yeah, exactly. So the more people, and this is the whole idea, Justin, behind the global meditations that we started doing. So when there's a large number of people, right, with the same desire and intention, there's a massive amplification of energy. And this is part of reality creation. So when we work with ourselves optimally, and it's coming from within, and we're creating from within, from the wholeness, from the completeness of the I am, of the divinity, of the fractal of God, this is actually how we're going to create the enlightened society. So this is the idea behind the global meditations. And it works in the opposite way too. So if a large number of people are putting their attention on fear-based messages, despite the fact that in there are nuggets of truth or kernels of truth wrapped around and packaged through fear, through end times, through chaos, through madness, through destruction, we are actually building that. And so this is what, and because there's so many people actually putting their attention on there, this is actually how we usher in a reality that we don't really desire, because we're in a reactionary state, consuming information with our attention upon it. You cannot create something other than what your attention is upon. Try creating something other than what your attention is upon. So when your attention is upon those things, that is actually what you're creating. And the insidious nature of this is actually, that's the entire design by the whole thing.
Absolutely. I think we all would like to see change and create change. I think the beautiful thing is for anybody who tuned into that last interview, for anybody who's tuning into this one, for anybody who jumps on the meditations, like, you're literally creating change. We are changing, we're creating ripples, right, RJ? Within, by putting this out there and letting people know how creation is done, now we can be mindful in the way that we create. Wouldn't you say so?
That is the entire message. That is the entire point. That is everything that I talk about, everything I embody, everything that I teach is about the detachment gives you discernment, and then we create from within. We make the outside world a reflection of the perfection and the divinity of the I am. And we must be a creator rather than a consumer. And so, again, putting attention outwardly on anyone or anything, any ideology, any belief, any concept, any religious figure, any politician, any extraterrestrial, we're not working with ourselves optimally and properly. The key is to go within, put the attention on within, as for, and by the self. And then what is it that unfolds? Because we're putting our attention, our energy on it, the self unfolds. And that's reality creation 101. So if we reverse it, instead of outward and consuming, and work with being present and letting the self unfold, the higher timeline or the higher frequency or the ascension, that's really the key. And this is actually the shift that everyone is talking about. It's this: stop reaching out and stop consuming and touch the truth, which is that you are an immortal creator being. And when we work optimally and properly, the outside world's going to reflect that.
I just love the fact that anybody watching this video, you're helping put in the work in order to bring about the reality that we all want to create. So that's a beautiful thing. RJ, I didn't understand how reality was created beforehand. And when we don't understand it, are we basically creating our reality by default then at that point?
Yeah, because so again, it's consumer creator. So what's happening is the reactionary mind, the finite mind, the intellect is taking in information. And what your attention is on, right? Your attention is energy. So that information that is growing, so that fear-based or concepts or ideologies or whatever it is actually now informing. We are not expanding. It's actually the opposite. We are consuming. And so we have to reverse this. This is what all the I am discourses and teachings and true ancient wisdom works in this way. And so we have to be mindful about disempowering ourselves, even though it might be couched in this is great information from whomever. The answers lie within. And really the truth of the matter is there aren't even any questions. The I am is whole and complete. And it's simply about tapping into that and letting it unfold. And that's really reality creation. Otherwise, we're consuming and we're creating something that doesn't come from us. So then who does that serve? What is that really about? Why are we doing that? Why do we think we even need to reach outside of ourselves? And so when we start to work with ourselves in this way, detachment, discernment, the inner guidance system is on, truth will resonate, and we'll realize that we create our reality individually and collectively. And this is really the turning point. This is why I'm saying these things. This is the turning point for humanity. When we start working with ourselves in this way, we really will create the inner and outer reality that we truly desire. But we must stop putting our attention outwardly and consuming. That's the real shift, and that's the key.
I think this goes to show how important sharing this message is. And we appreciate everybody who shares these videos, obviously, because making other people aware of this. I think if when we come from this body consciousness, right, RJ, we think that we have no power and we don't realize how powerful we are as creators. But when, you explain how powerful we are, it just makes a lot of sense into how we're the ones that bring it about. We're not the ones witnessing what's going to happen. We can actually create it, right?
Yeah, we're sitting back in a passive reactionary state, asking what's going to happen to us. Think about that. That is the complete polar opposite of what is. We are immortal creator beings. Why would we sit back passively and ask what's going to happen to us? It's just the opposite. We create our reality, and we are creating by putting attention outward and giving authority to, again, a concept, a belief, a religious figure, a politician, an extraterrestrial. This is the opposite of what is. The opposite of what is. And this is how we create an inner world and an outer world that is not germane to who and what we really are. And it's just this simple switch. It's a simple switch from consumer to creator.
Absolutely. So, RJ, I think we should talk a little bit about where our attention should be placed. Obviously, going within. Can you give us, like, maybe an example or
Yeah. Okay. Well, first thing I would say is don't shit all over yourself.
Right.
That's number one. And I don't want to get any of your shit on me. So
Apologize. I'll see myself out now.
that's right. Okay. So there are no shits, Justin. There are no shits, right? Okay. So it's really about what it is that we're trying to achieve. There's what works and what doesn't work in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And so what we just stated before, right? If we want to live in a world and therefore create a world that is filled with more wisdom and love and compassion and power, we have to cultivate that within ourselves first. You can't do that by putting your attention on something outside of yourself. There is nothing actually outside of the self. So by reaching out is a state of disempowerment. And by doing that, we are aligning ourselves with what is not true to us. And this is how dystopian timelines or realities are created that are not desirable, because we're not operating from within and out. We're going from out and in a reactionary, passive, love, light, and namaste, and it's all good. The spiritual bypassing that is so absolutely prevalent on this planet by design, because it keeps you in a reactionary, passive, disempowered state, ready to accept chaos, madness, destruction, the end times, ready to accept it. Predictive programming, keeping you in a passive and disempowered state rather than the creator state. And this goes all the way back to the story of Cain and Abel. I'm not going to get into it, right? It goes all the way back to that. That's what that is really about. It's either about residing and living as the lower frequency or the conditioned mind, or residing and living and creating from the higher mind. That's what that story is really about. And this is the crossroads that we are at, that humanity is actually at. And this is why I've been teaching these things and embodying these things literally forever, but why I'm doing it much more now, because this really is a critical juncture. And the key, Justin, it's so simple to bring yourself to the present moment. Use any one of my instantaneous meditation magic tricks. One of the more popular ones is to pretend that you just arrived here. No past, no future. Now, from that, live and create, not a past or future. Married to the present moment, to the I am presence, and then let that unfold. Because when you pretend that you just arrived here, no past, no future, the conditioned mind is turned off. The energy is returning to its source point within you. Now, this is how to proceed. Now it's not thinking outside the box. You just realize there is no box. And now you realize that you are an immortal creator. And it's from here that we will create the enlightened society. And only from this state of being, of full presence, not from consuming kernels of truth wrapped around misinformation, disinformation, outright lies, and other agendas. Agendas of religious figures, agendas of politicians, agendas of ETs. This is one of the most important messages that humanity is going to hear. And if it resonates, work in this way.
Absolutely. Now, RJ, if we do ever consume anything, how can we discern whether or not the information that we're consuming is, one way or the other?
Yeah. So if you don't feel lighter and freer and more empowered, it's not the truth. That's how you know. And the key is, it's not to figure out, can I trust him? Can I trust her? Can I trust them? Forget that. That's operating outside. Learn to be present and to trust yourself. And then you'll know what to do, what not to do, when to do it, who to talk to, who not to talk to, and how to say it. By trusting yourself. This is the key. The self, the I am. Not can I trust him, her, this, that. Those are narratives. Those are programs, which collapses consciousness and constricts energy. And then we emanate and create from a limitation program of collapsed consciousness, of constricted energy. And what we're talking about is the exact opposite.
Absolutely. Okay, beautiful. Now, RJ, for anybody who like it's not as cut and dry, can you give us an example of seeking out versus going within, just so everybody can kind of know?
Yeah. Okay. So if the idea is to connect with something or someone, right? So I'm going to try to talk to my guides and helpers, my angels, extraterrestrials, whatever it is, right? There is nothing outside of the self. Reaching outside the self by its very nature is disempowering because it's false, because the self is whole and complete. So by reaching out, we're going in the wrong direction. So by going within, by being present, and then allow that infinite spaciousness, that inner silence. And by the way, if you sit in that long enough, you'll actually hear the polyphonic symphony of existence itself. But by sitting within that infinite spaciousness and that silence, the expansiveness of who and what we really are, you'll realize that you don't lack anything, that you don't need to reach out for anything. And it's simple practice, because we are so used to, because the five senses are outwardly focused, we are so conditioned to continually reach out. And this makes us susceptible to whatever it is that we encounter. We can be easily abused and misused by energies that we don't really understand, that we can't really see, that have their very own agenda. This is actually what we're talking about right now. This is actually the shift. This is the most critical time of what's going on right now, is to go from consumer to creator. And you will feel lighter, freer, and more empowered. And if it's wrapped or couched in spiritual fear porn and chaos and madness, that is exactly how that agenda wants you to feel. They want you passive, love, light, and namaste. It's all good. And to simply accept that. And they couch it. There's little kernels of truth in there. But if it's not empowering, doesn't make you feel freer and lighter, then it's not the truth. Then it's not for you. So consumer to creator, feeling lighter, freer, more empowered, more clear, mentally and emotionally, not more confused or filled with anxiety and having to reach out. If there was anything nourishing about any of these continuous messages wrapped in spiritual fear porn, we wouldn't have to keep watching it. If it was truly nourishing, we would see it, connect, and we would be good. There's nothing nourishing about it, which is why it's next one, next one, next one, next one. This is a consumer. This is what a consumer does. And we do it because it's become addictive and because we're not getting any real nourishment out of it.
It's really great. You guys are going to see a lot of similarities between the stuff that RJ is talking about now and a lot of the comments in the comment section. So make sure you stick around to the end for that. But RJ, how can we go within more often? Is it possible to live from within then?
Yeah, it's simply about, okay, we can phrase it this way, Justin. So when I say acceptance in this way, because it's really about allowance rather than acceptance. Acceptance is a spiritual buzzword, but in this sense, if we can accept, and in this sense, when I say accept, I mean love ourselves. If we can love ourselves completely, warts and all, we will effortlessly be present. It won't even require any kind of training or meditation magic tricks or studying with the master. It's not required. It certainly helps. But if we can learn to love ourselves completely, then we will effortlessly be present. And we are that love and wisdom, which is why it doesn't require any effort. And when we do that, the reaching out for guidance, for help, for information, for this, that will just stop. It will completely stop. So that's the easiest way to do it, to accept, to love. Love yourself with wild abandon, with no limitation. And you'll actually start to see that reflected in the so-called outer world as well.
That's really beautiful, RJ. Is that why we like seek things outside of ourselves, because we don't love ourselves?
Yeah. So the desire that we have for a thing or someone else is the desire that we have to know ourselves fully. And so that's really what that's about. Those are permission slips Like, let's say with a relationship, the desire that we have for someone else is the desire for us to know ourselves. The relationship is a permission slip for us to tangibly experience more of the I am. And when we really start to understand that, well, the knee-jerk habituation of reaching out for completeness will stop, because we'll realize the I am is whole and complete. And we're just picking, we're picking things that are just insufficient, and they're projections. They're not the I am directly. And that's why they're not really nourishing. They're just poor substitute gratifications for our ability to just be completely present. Let the mind calm down. Let the emotions stop. The real you is online. The beingness is now online. And just to allow the beingness into the doingness. The beingness into the doingness. And what I'm talking about is ancient supreme teachings about self-realization. I can now come here and teach them through metaphysics, because the base education of humanity is higher. So we can talk about it in this way, and about energies and frequencies and dimensions and sentience and things like that. But the premise, the understanding, the foundation is ancient, absolutely ancient. But now we can do it instantaneously, because we're ready and because it's time.
Wow, that's a beautiful lesson, and I love it, because I think, like myself, just like a lot of people probably watching this video, we think that something is going to make us happy. We think when we get something, when we get the person, like whatever it is, and it's like a Band-Aid, and then eventually it's, we find that it's empty, right?
Well, that's just a thought.
Right. Right.
So, and it's your belief and identification in the authenticity of that thought, and it's just a thought, that is what gives it its sway over your consciousness and then your body of energy. So that is just a thought, and we are not our thoughts. If we were our thoughts, when our thoughts pass, we would pass too, but we're right here. So we can see how easily, and how we do this all day, right? We have a thought, we believe in that, and it's just a thought, and we're not our thoughts, which we just tangibly realized. We have a thought, which is something that we create. The painter's not the painting. So we have a thought, and thoughts are in context to some beliefs, concepts, ideologies, roles, past experiences. So we take ourselves out of alignment. We believe in the authenticity of the thought, and the thought comes from some identification, some belief. And what is a belief? A belief is just a string of justified thoughts. We are none of these things. And so when we reverse this whole thing and stop consuming concepts, beliefs, ideologies, stop disempowering ourselves and giving that power over to anything and anyone, this is the massive shift. We will feel more like our true self, and the reality that we create will be more reflective and symbolic of our true self.
If you guys haven't already, you gotta get this bad boy. Just one of the things from this book that made me think about that, RJ, is when you said that you can never truly experience your family, your friends, or like even yourself until you learn to reconnect with the self. So I just think that that's so beautiful. Anyway, access super consciousness. You guys need to get it. Let's get into the next question, RJ. Some of the comments were referring to the video as creating division, or saying that we should just love and everything is going to be okay. Can you kind of explain what you think about that?
I'm not sure how the takeaway could be division when it's about self-empowerment and liberation. I don't see division anywhere in any way. I'm talking about how to liberate and empower ourselves. And if that's division, then I'm not sure where we're coming from, or see it as division. So no, I don't feel that way at all. And that's not the message in any way.
Another kind of comment along the same, I guess, thought, if you will, and that's just a thought, that's not you, but was that everything is going to be all right if we just kind of let things go and let things be, that everything's going to be okay. So can you weigh in on that one as well?
This is the whole love, light, and namaste. It puts you in a passive state, and it's just spiritual bypassing. I mean, we create reality based upon our frequency, and the order of creation is desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, and behavior. Nowhere in there is consumerism. So that is to set us up to just and to label everything. It's all good. It's all love. Now, at its core, that is 100% true. The wellspring of being and non-being is actually unconditional love, but we're talking things that are way downstream from that. And so I'm not sure how we've conflated unconditional love with unconditional tolerance. And so again, there's just no clarity with this. We create our reality, and to simply say to ourselves, whatever happens is totally okay. I mean, are you not a creator? Do you not create your reality as a collective, as humanity, as a species? We have been given the assignment to create the reality that we most desire, not to sit back and have it wash over us. And the labeling of it's all love, it's all light, at its core it is. At its core it is. But what we see bandied about from religious figures, politicians, and extraterrestrials is often not that, because they all have their own agenda. They all have their own agenda. And sometimes it's the same agenda. Sometimes it isn't. But to say it's all love and light, at the core it is. But we're talking about what is way downstream from the wellspring of being and non-being. And when we marry ourselves to the present moment by just pretending you just arrived here, no past, no future, we are now seated in the driver's seat of the miracle machine, of the I am, of the fractal of God, of the divine intelligence that we all are. And from there, we emanate and create. That's the key. Not just throw our hands up and just say, that's fine. It's all love and light. It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to sit back and be passive. I'm not going to create the life that I desire for myself. It is the opposite of why and how we were created.
It's all good. That was a great response, RJ. Now, a lot of people got really triggered at your mentioning of Christopher Columbus as being an ascended master. So I was just wondering if you wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. And as you know, in the self-mastery course, I mean, I kind of explain these things in great detail. And again, what I share, what I embody and what I share has nothing to do with my physical sensory perceptions, and therefore my finite mind or intellect. Everything that I embody and share has to do with the higher mind and the accessing or the realizing of the self or self-realization. Okay. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet, which is really hard for me to keep anything short and sweet. But what I will say about Christopher Columbus is that there is a higher self, right? And we are all, I always talk about an octopus and a tentacle, and we are a tentacle or a projection of our higher self. Okay. So the higher self that projected Christopher Columbus, it's the same higher self that also projected Saint Germain and Merlin and Moses and Francis Bacon and Saint Joseph and Saint Alban and Plato and Amelia Earhart and Christopher Columbus and, yes, R.J. Spina. So the role of Christopher Columbus, his mission in that life was to bring about the continuation of the individualized free will experiment, which is humanity, by finding or locating or recognizing a land where all sorts of people would be able to come in, whether they're Asians and Europeans. So the idea was to continue the free will experiment and to allow every type of person to come into the melting pot that is America. So all of humanity could actually experience this individualized free will project about freedom, about continuing it. That's really his mission was not to try to correct systems that had been in place forever. His idea, his mission was to do just what I said. And he accomplished it. Now, the narrative is to just blame him for everything that came before. That's just a narrative to make you feel disempowered and victimized. That's all it is. The much larger picture has to do with what I just said. He was a key component in the continuation of the human experiment, which is the experiment of individualized free will. By opening up that to every kind of race, creed, every kind of person could then come and experience the direct freedom That's the short version. And if I keep going, this interview, we're going to need hair and makeup change and wardrobe change. So that's the short version of Christopher Columbus.
I think we'd all enjoy that, RJ. So if you don't mind, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think we should do a whole episode or a class on the Free Will Project. I think that would be a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
if you guys agree, put it down in the comment section so that way RJ knows.
Yeah.
I think, could be good. RJ, for anybody who's recently found you, I know you talk a lot about how you speak in metaphysics. Can you explain the difference between speaking in metaphysics and, I don't know, learning things in books or having an opinion on these types of things?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So metaphysics and magic. And when I say magic, I don't mean pick a card, any card, or 3-card Monty. That's not what I mean. So magic is the utilization and accessing of energies that lie outside of physical sensory perception and therefore are beyond the intellect or the conditioned finite mind. Okay. So magic and metaphysics are the same thing. Now, metaphysics, if taken all the way to its core, actually reveal reality creation and how things are and what is. So by removing the dirty windshields, this is what I call them, the dirty windshields of concepts, ideologies, religion, we kind of remove all those things and we start to see the core of metaphysics. And this is what I was talking about from the very beginning about how we create our reality. So I speak in terms of metaphysics. And so that is beyond the finite mind and physical sensory perception because metaphysics precedes and exceeds physical sensory perception and therefore escapes the intellect and forever escapes the intellect. Now, one of the things about metaphysics is that they're tangible. And this is when I talk about low frequency and high frequency and the movement of energy, which is also magic. So metaphysics are what is, and they will always, always, always escape physical sensory perception and therefore the intellect and therefore mental understanding. So it is a felt sense knowingness in how to operate not only properly, but optimally. And by working with metaphysics, we're working at the core of what is or what reality creation actually is. And this is how we were actually designed to work with ourselves in this way. As I said earlier, the body-mind complex, which is just really a biological suit, was designed perfectly to take instruction or guidance from the I am, from the causal body, from the center point, from the height of metaphysics. The body-mind complex was never designed to take guidance or instruction from the conditioned consumerism mind, which this is where we get our disharmony. This is where we get sickness, disease, decrepitude, and demise. That's where we actually get it from. So metaphysics are what is, but they escape physical sensory perception and the intellect. But everything, as you know, everything that I teach and talk about, everything is prescriptive. So we can actually have these tangible experiences ourselves, and therefore we're not seeking. We actually start to realize that it is within us when we work metaphysically.
How did we get it so backwards then, RJ, if we were designed to take action from the I am? And, I feel like we do it backwards now.
Well, yeah, we do. But that's part of the experience of incarnating into the lower frequencies. So essentially, nothing and no one comes from the physical universe, right? Everything is a projection from the higher selves that project, right? So there is this force of intention and will that projects everything into physical reality. And for those that are interested, that's what gravity is. That's actually what it is. It is the force of intention of everything that is projected into the lower frequencies of the physical universe. Okay, so why do we do it backwards? Well, we do it backwards because essentially, when we are projected here, we are losing consciousness. We're losing our normal connectivity and communion to all things. And by the time we get here, because we're so far from that holistic state of consciousness, that we literally get here deaf, dumb, and blind, and the first thing we do is identify ourselves with the suit that we're wearing because of the total amnesia. So as soon as we identify with the suit, we're going to identify with what it is that the physical senses perceive. And that data stream is what comes in and forms the intellect or the I. And that is the I of the ego mind identity. Now, meanwhile, all these roles, concepts, beliefs, and identifications are exactly what we are not. Because we proceed and exceed and go beyond all of that. So it's because of the incarnation into the lower frequencies and the misperception, misunderstanding, and misidentification, starting with the suit. And then you misidentify with physical sensory perceptions, concepts, beliefs, ideologies, roles, bodily sensations, experiences. And this is what takes us out of alignment. And the further we keep going out of alignment through the consumerism. That's really what this is about. And this is what this is why I'm here. This is what this is about, to empower ourselves through detachment, discernment, inner guidance system is on. The truth will resonate. And then we create from that state. So it has to do with reincarnate, and since I'm rambling, let me just continue to ramble. Okay. So let's talk about when I say reincarnation. All right. If we looked at, this is from my direct tangible experience. Everything I talk about is what I experience directly and tangibly. Okay. Reincarnation doesn't really exist in the way that we think, because that's just a thought, in the way that we think it does. All right. So the example I want to give is if you're at the beach, which I kind of wish I was at the beach. If we're at the beach and we see a wave coming in, right? Okay. So for a moment or two, that wave is kind of sitting atop the water. It's in a sense, it's temporarily individualized because you can see that wave, right? Okay. So that wave is coming in, then eventually it crashes, right? And then it merges once again with the ocean, and it just gets pulled right back out, right? Okay. Now, I'm sure if you stand there at the shoreline long enough, there's going to be another wave that's going to come in, right? Okay. Now, that wave is not the exact same wave that just came before and crashed. It is absolutely different, but it's from the exact same ocean. It's from the exact same body of water, but it's not the exact same wave. Okay. Now, if we can start to look at it that way, I think that's a better analogy to understand reincarnation. It's never the exact same soul. If anyone who says that, they don't tangibly understand and haven't experienced that process in an awakened, in a self-realized state. So we are waves projected from our higher self. And that's what I mean about other incarnations. And really in that sense, Justin, reincarnation and the way that we thought it worked, which is just a thought, which is a belief, it has nothing to do with how it actually is. A lot of those qualities will be the same. Let me throw another analogy on top of that, since I'm just going on and on and on. I'll throw another analogy on top of that. So if you take like a screwdriver, with the interchangeable heads, on the screwdriver, right? Okay. So the body of the screwdriver is roughly, let's just call it 90% the same, 95% the same. It's just the head is different. So we can start to understand too, all these various waves from the same higher self, right? The level of consciousness, the level of sentience, really, the energetic power that is associated with that sentience is quite similar from incarnation to incarnation. There's just specificities that have been changed. And again, to double up on the analogies, you can think of it as changing the top on a screwdriver. It's not the same wave. It's not the same screwdriver, but it's coming from the exact same source. And this is where we see alteration. So it's never really the exact same soul. So reincarnation, in a sense, doesn't really exist. And I sincerely hope that dispels a lot of spiritual fiction and understanding in terms of what is.
RJ, I think I speak for everyone when I say we'd rather you not ramble. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I can't help myself sometimes. Yeah.
No, we love you rambling, obviously. It's always brilliant. There was a question that I was going to ask you about the Free Will Project. I mean, obviously, time doesn't really exist besides down here, right? However, at one point in time, there was no Earth. And I guess there was, within the Free Will Project, wanting a desire to create an Earth so that way we could continue to learn and advance and something.
Yeah.
To that effect.
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, so Earth was moved here because this area of the universe is very hospitable to, we'll call it organic life. So Earth was moved here. The moon was moved here first. and then Earth was moved here. So because it's like I said, it's very hospitable. The environment is just conducive to, again, we'll call it organic life. And so the idea behind it is that the very idea of its conception and inception of what humanity is was the idea that we could advance the evolution of consciousness with the greatest efficacy if every temporarily individualized unit of consciousness, and you could think of that as me or you or a tree or a plant or a flower, if every single one of those things was given free will in order to evolve itself in its own way and in its own time. So the very idea was that we would evolve exponentially, because other evolved sentient beings that incarnate, we'll use the word alien, but we're all alien because no one's from here, no one's from the physical universe. So that's a bit of a misnomer. But that being said, other species operate with a type of hive mentality. So they don't have this individualized free will. And this is part of why humanity is so fascinating and why it's so interfered with and messed with, because we do have this individualized free will. And so the idea was that if we operated properly and optimally, which is my absolute obsession, we would evolve our consciousness with the greatest efficacy possible. And we've reached a point now where we can evolve our consciousness. We don't have to do it through suffering. We've run this experiment several times. And so now we can evolve ourselves with great efficacy, with complete efficiency. And this is God's desire. God is obsessed with its own evolution. I'm obsessed with the exact same thing, which is why I've given my word to come here and keep doing this. So the free will project, humanity, is so that we could evolve ourselves with the greatest efficacy possible, and no longer doing it through limitation programs, right? Such as fear, such as misinformation or disinformation, such as lies, such as disempowering ourselves. So that's really what the human experiment, and it's already succeeded. It's already been done. I know that the mind's like, how in the world? It's done. Everything has been completed. We're just moving our attention to the various levels and experiences that lead ourselves to this complete fruition. And it's up to us what reality that we want to create and therefore experience along the way. But it's already happened. It's already a great success. So, and again, the physical sensory perceptions and the intellect can never actually access that. But we all can. If we start to understand what the I is, the ego, mind, identity, which is just the conditioned mind, it's part of and attuned to the local environment, as the body mind complex is, and that's the false character. Then there's the higher mind that is attuned to all the things that I'm talking about. And then if we dove really deeply, frankly, from an enlightened perspective, we would start to understand that the subconscious actually is the Akashic records. We would actually be able to see our complete and utter history, the complete and utter history of everything. So there's the higher mind, there's the lower mind, and there is the complete subconscious, which actually really is the Akashic. The Akashic's not out there. There is nothing out there. That is a projection. The self is whole and complete. And so the human experiment is temporarily individualized free will, and it already is a raging success. It's already been completed. Our attention is only on this moment. It's like when you have a book, you open it up and you look at page 77 and you read the first sentence, the first paragraph. You don't know what happened the first 77 pages, and you don't know what happens in the next 77 pages, but yet the book's written. Now, in order to get the full impact, you have to read the whole book. So we have to keep putting our attention on these different timelines and these different experiences, so we get the full impact of the individualized free will experiment, which is what we call humanity.
Now, RJ, inside of this thing, where'd you say the Akashic was, so I could just find it?
Left-hand pocket.
Okay, got it.
Left-hand pocket.
There it is.
Yeah.
I didn't look there before. No. You breaking that down was absolutely beautiful, and it makes a lot more sense. Like you had said previously, that all of this was just a bubble of God's imagination, and I feel like you kind of breaking down what all this was makes that make a lot more sense, at least to me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, everything's imagination, my friend. Everything.
Absolutely. So now, RJ, we're gonna get in some comments from that previous video, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, sweet. So I'm gonna read these. I'll pop them up on the screen as well. Schmoopy Girl says, I used to feel so incomplete. To sleep, I needed to have the noise of podcasts, guided meditations, etc. Now I sleep trying to hear the music inside of me. And so I wanted to pull this one out, RJ, because it kind of goes back to that whole like constantly consuming until we kind of are able to locate the self and find the self. And then we realize that's where we really need to be, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. So we talk about substitute gratifications, right? Information, podcast, it doesn't matter what it is. Substitute gratifications. And that person has realized the truth. And they have been able to now reside within themselves, and they're at peace. And that's what all of this is about.
And if we were all able to do that, RJ, I'm sure this place would look a lot different, right?
We wouldn't recognize it, and it would change overnight.
I feel like that's the work that we're doing right now as well to get to that point, right?
That's it. When we work with ourselves from my perspective, properly and optimally, the shift happens in here. Because remember, everything comes through and is projected outward. All these different frequencies, realities, and dimensions are within you. There are many rooms within my Father's house. It comes through you and it is projected outwardly. And the more that we put our attention on the self, the more it unfolds, and the more that we're able to move past the lower frequencies of the conditioned mind and move past suffering by empowering ourself and no longer reaching outside like that person just talked about.
It's a beautiful place to be. RJ Dragonheart says, let us not get divided. Let go and let be. Let go of ego lovingly and be kind in all you think, do, or say. I think this kind of goes back to the whole like love, light, and namaste thing, but I'll let you weigh in.
I mean, it can. There's nothing about that statement that it does not resonate, but it can really fall into passivity. And I want humanity, I want us to be mindful of that, to not allow or accept things that are not in accordance with who and what we really are. So there's a lot of truth in that statement, but it is also just primed to just accept whatever it is that is put out there. Remember, we are creators, and in creators has nothing to do with passivity. It has absolutely nothing to do with passivity. So we just have to be mindful. We just have to be mindful. And that statement is I can see why you picked that out. That statement is kind of right on there. But between both. But I understand why you picked it and why that person said it.
No, RJ, there's a saying that says, someone who stands for nothing will fall for anything. So like, even with regards to, I mean, I think people label spiritual and spirituality as you need to love and love and love, but don't we need to take a stand as well for what we believe in and what we want to create?
You answered that question. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We have big misconceptions about what being spiritual is. I don't even use the word spiritual because it's been hijacked and co-opted. I don't even use that word. I use the word metaphysics. I use what is. We can even take it further with ascended masters. We have this idea of ascended masters that everything is love, light, and namaste. They are ferocious. They enact change, and they do that by taking action. They don't just sit back and just accept it. They're quite the opposite. And we are all that inside, that we are capable of that. They're an embodiment and a living example of what is possible, but none of them just sit back. This is part of the spiritual fiction. This is part of the passivity. This is part of the spiritual bypassing by just saying everything's love, light, and namaste. Well, at its core it is, but we are downstream. And we absolutely must take a stand. We want the reality to be reflective of who and what we truly are. And that requires desire, intention, thought, emotion, action, and behavior in complete alignment with the divine intelligence, which has nothing to do with consumerism and passivity.
Also, if we look at history, I feel like the greatest, civilizations, America, was founded on people putting their foot down and standing for what they believed in. So, obviously there's things to be said on either side. Another comment, RJ. This video single-handedly pulled me out of a 1-week depression. Thank you for the re-upload. I'm still practicing being in the now, and I love Saint Germain. He's my friend in spirit. So I thought that was a beautiful comment to add in.
I agree.
Absolutely. This next one says, I agree with RJ. Can you please explain? And then she goes on to list several people. She basically wants to know, is the information that these channels giving, is it something that we can trust? And your response to that, RJ, is that you want her to trust herself above all else. And if they feel right, then they're right for you. So can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, but I mean, that was my answer. Obviously, you found my answer in there. That was my answer. I mean, that's my answer now. If we
Sorry to ruin it, RJ.
That's okay. So, to go a little I won't ramble. To go a little further with that is the trap of the ego mind of the identity is to try to figure out if the others can be trusted, right? Can I trust him? Can I trust her? Can I trust RJ? Can I trust the channel? Right? Forget that. That's impossible to figure that out, because the identifications and the intentions and the agenda of individuals are so various, right? And we like to think it's either good or it's bad. Well, what about the billion other possibilities in between good and bad based upon our conditioned mind? And so that's really impossible. But what is very possible, and how we were created to operate, is to learn to be yourself, and therefore you trust your own intuition. And that's why I do the pretend you just arrived here, no past, no future. The real you is now present. We break the spell of the conditioned mind in 1 second, instantaneous meditation. And once you're present, the inner guidance system, intuition, the inner guidance system is now on. And when the inner guidance system is on, truth will resonate. And then we proceed or respond from that. So the key is to trust yourself, to know yourself. And that will take care of trying to figure out who or what you can trust.
Know thyself, right, RJ?
That's it. This whole thing, as you've heard me say, the entire multiverse is a multifrequential, multidimensional hall of mirrors designed for self-mastery. That's what this whole thing is about, to know thyself and all thy infinite potential. And we work in the way that we are talking about. We are well on our path to that.
And if you want self-mastery, these videos are awesome, but you gotta do the work. And I feel like the work is in here. Get the audio, get the physical, and go through it. Me and RJ obviously have a whole series where we break down this entire book chapter by chapter. We're on chapter 3 right now. But anyway, highly recommend you guys get that book. RJ, the next comment is, isn't it remarkable that one can insult, mistreat, and mislead people without the video being blocked? And when it is about joy, peace, inspiration, and liberation, then it is so quickly removed and muzzled. Thank God I did watch the video on Sunday and forwarded it to friends, but I am just amazed on the vivacity of your team. That was a great job they did, and I'm so pleased to rewatch it again. Mr. Spina, you rock. Yeah. Basically, though, like, it's just crazy how, things that actually move the needle get, censored, and things that don't, obviously, they get promoted. Right, RJ?
I think that action speaks volumes, doesn't it? Speaks absolute volumes. So again, this is the stop being a consumer. Stop putting your attention on headlines of fear, madness, chaos, end times, because we are actually creating that reality by what we put our attention on. And I point that out, and some people really don't like it. I wonder why. I wonder why that is. And to speak to that comment about it was really you, Justin, jumping into action and making sure that that important video went right back up. You're the one that did that. I just sat back and said, "Yeah, good idea. Please do that." You're the one that did all the work. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Of course. This has to get out there. It's very important. And as you guys saw in the reflection of the video, first 2 days, about 100,000 views. We reposted the video, 2 days, did 100,000 views. So we do want to thank all of you guys for liking, commenting, sharing, because, without you, then it's not really possible. But that's why we're doing this. So that way there's another avenue. That's why we have the Unite the World meditation, so we can bring everybody together and we can cultivate our power together to push us in the right direction. RJ, this next comment says, "This is the first video of yours that I've watched, and I instantly subscribed. I've been very caught up in the whirlwind of spiritual community, especially channelers, astrologists, tarot readers, etc. And it's been driving me crazy to the point where I've almost had a breakdown. I was just thinking today, I need to take a huge step back, and then your channel popped up. Thank you." And so this was kind of a theme in the comment section, RJ. Like, I think, the spiritual community or the spiritual videos, they create more, anxiety and fear and questions rather than providing answers and solutions. So I don't know. That's why this work is so valuable, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all I ever talk about. That's the message. That's what I embody, is the liberation and the empowerment and the freedom, which has nothing to do with consumerism. And let me speak a moment about psychics and mediums and channelers. I understand that skill set very well. And people are, every psychic, every medium, every channeler is making themselves open to being used and abused by energies and agendas that they don't actually understand. And that's important to note. That's very important to note. It doesn't necessarily mean that information, accurate information, authentic information gotten through the skill set of being a medium or a channeler or a psychic should be ignored. I've never said that. What I have said is the truth, is that if it has any kind of message of chaos, of doom and gloom, you're not accessing who and what you think you are. Absolutely not. And I think what's happened is the monetization or commercialization through the podcasters as well, unfortunately, because they make their money through ad revenue. And so people with true gifts, clear, accurate channels, which are very rare, as we're seeing, many of them are letting their personal beliefs get in the way as they predict political outcomes and tell you what medical procedures are safe. Spirit never speaks in those terms. Entities do. Spirit never speaks in those terms because spirit is open. Entities have agendas. So we have to be very, very discerning. And what I learned a long time ago is to actually go within and access the inner knowingness and remembrance of who and what we really are, rather than reaching out to some interface or so-called other to get information when the truth is already within us.
Absolutely. Lighter and freer. Right, RJ?
Yes, sir.
This next comment, thank you so much, RJ, for being unwithering in the light. The fact that the video has been taken down highlights its importance, of course, and actually exposes the agenda they want to remain hidden. In this way, isn't it a great act of service? Your response, RJ, the darkness always serves the light, especially when the light uses its iron will to always persevere. Can you explain that a little bit? The darkness always serving the light?
Yeah, when it's recognized for what it is. So it's providing evolutionary tension, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Something pressing down upon you, something constricting your consciousness, which is, it's everywhere and everything. So when the pressure is put down, the darkness is put down to collapse consciousness into belief systems, concepts, subservience, identifications, to bow down to authority, religious figures, politicians, extraterrestrials. So that pressure, that is what I call evolutionary tension. So in that sense, all of that is actually pushing us to work in the way that we're talking about, to go within, realize the truth, and empower oneself. So in that sense, the darkness is always serving the light. But when it's not recognized, the lessons can be continuous and not necessary. So in other words, we talk about blooming of consciousness. We start to bloom and we can't recognize the misinformation, the disinformation, because it's couched in something that is beautiful, the expansion of consciousness, more of the unity with all the other life within the universe. So they use the truth and invert it and pervert it. But it absolutely always provides evolutionary tension and the light if it's recognized. Otherwise, we just get another dystopian version of not quite blooming, and that's really what we have to be mindful about. And that's why I'm talking about this, to detach. Through detachment, we'll be present. We will get discernment. The inner guidance system is on, the true you, and now we create the life that we want, the reality that we desire. And that's the key. That's the message. That's always been the message. That will remain the message, because it's how to work properly and optimally, and it has nothing to do with anything else. It has nothing to do with. It has to do with where you put your attention, and intention will determine the life that you create inwardly and outwardly.
That message won't change tomorrow, will it, RJ?
No.
Want to double check. Okay. Just making sure.
No.
All right. We're all
No.
good. The next comment, RJ, we are all ascended masters here, not just a select few. Do you know why I believe you should always turn the other cheek? Because if you fight your enemy, you inevitably become like them. RJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it, but I think there's a lot of spiritual fiction in that. There is, that doesn't resonate as truth at all. I think that's probably said by someone who wants to feel better about themselves, and that's okay. We should all feel great about ourselves, and we could forget about these labels. Who cares about ascended master? Who cares? Every label is a limitation. All of them. So we can just throw all that away. We can throw all that away. But the idea of not standing up for yourself and being true to who you are is the passive, just lie down, love, light, namaste. And if the idea is that we're all ascended masters, don't operate that way. They don't. So I don't know why that's been turned into that. They don't. They are the embodiment of supreme wisdom, love, and power. And they are the true teachers of humanity. And none of them are passive like that, contrary to whatever someone thinks or believes. They don't operate that way.
So, RJ, the next question that we have is, hi, RJ, are you able to do a video on the false light to explain this more to people? This was new information to me and probably others. Thank you. So, RJ, can you talk about the false light a little bit?
I can. Oh, you want me to?
Oh, if you don't mind. Either way.
Well, I can. Okay, you want to? That's all right. So, in simplest terms, there's nuggets of truth surrounded by untruth, and then we are led by, because there are core nuggets of what is, and then it's manipulated. It's covered up with misinformation, disinformation. It's not completely clear. And then we are led astray under the guise of something at its core, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. And so the false light is insidious. It is deceptive. And that's the point, because it's touching upon some truths, literally touching upon some truths. But then that whole agenda and disempowerment and looking to someone else, whether it's ETs or politicians, to save you, to lead you. That's the false light. It's that. It should be completely and utterly empowering. Completely and utterly empowering. You should feel like $1 million. You should feel that you don't need to reach out in any way, because the self is whole and complete, and the false life will couch truths and disempower you to take you out of that. Even though it has kernels of truth, and that's why it's the false light, because there is light there, but it's leading you further astray and away from the I am, and putting attention on and focus again on things and people and aliens, and that whole thing. It's very easy to lead people astray. It's much harder actually to wake them up, but it's easy to lead people astray. So the false light is kernels of truth wrapped around other agendas, and that sort of passive, reactionary, what's going to happen, right? Them just telling you it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Well, what if we actually create a reality? How about that? How about, instead of sitting back waiting for someone to tell you what's going to happen to you, is so backwards. It's so backwards. That is not empowering. And the false light is essentially that. And hopefully, and I've already seen a change since I've said some of these things. People are changing some of their thumbnails. So I think the needle has already moved. No more attention on chaos, fear, madness, destruction, end times, the battle for humanity's soul, all this kind of stuff. That's the false light.
Some people have also done the opposite, RJ, and completely removed you from their channels, which, I think says a lot. So, RJ, if that's the false light, then the true light is the I am, then, right?
Yeah. And we just don't want to get downstream. That's all. Very simple. That's why I talk about these magic tricks. You can just say, I don't know, and I don't care. Empties the mental container, empties the emotional container. Now you're fully present, right? You're in the driver's seat of the I am. And then let the beingness unfold into your doingness. It could not be more simple because it's what is. That's why it's so simple. That's why it's so immediate. That's why it's so tangible. It's what is. And these other things, it's very easy to be led downstream and further away from your power, further away from the I am presence directly, right? So that's really the key. It's really about that. And in a lot of ways, it's an honor that certain individuals have taken my interviews down, that they certainly want to make the viewers suffer. They're certainly really not interested in liberation and freedom. Obviously, they have another agenda, and that's totally okay. Completely and utterly okay. I want better for you.
One of my favorite meditation magic tricks is when you say, listen with the ears of your heart, RJ. So for anybody who's made it this far in the video, I would advise listening to the rest of it with the ears of your heart, because you can't think of anything when you try to do that, So anyway, it's a beautiful one. RJ, the next comment says, so RJ, how do we know that the information that you have been given is the truth and not just some random entity? Is it just based on positivity?
Why is the assumption that the information has been given to me? So it's tough for me to answer that question because it's based upon a theoretical assumption that it's just not what is. So what I share is knowingness. And I think we've been conditioned to believe, which is a string of justified thoughts, that information is always obtained by outside of you. Absolutely not. What I share is what I am. My knowingness and my wisdom comes from within. It is a deep remembrance. This has nothing to do with information given to me. This is the I am unfolding.
RJ also read a lot of books.
Exactly. I Google a lot for sure, read a lot of books, and then just try to memorize. And Justin knows I have no ability to memorize, which is pretty funny. But no, this is, again, see the condition about that you must be given the information. This has nothing to do with that. This is a knowingness. This is a deep remembrance. And this was taken to the next level when I woke up from emergency life-saving surgery in a state of cosmic consciousness. I tangibly remembered how self-healing and self-realization works. And I started explaining it in the ICU. This was not about information given to me. It's about that everything that was not me had been destroyed. My body had been destroyed. And along with it, my ego, mind, identity had been destroyed. There was nothing else left. What was left was I am, me, what I am, which is my depth of love and wisdom, which I will continually pour out and leave it all here.
Beautiful. Beautiful. RJ, this next comment says, this is just a general comment tacked onto the video. I am listening yet again to Access Super Consciousness, and every time I hear it, it's like hearing it anew. Absolutely miraculous, massive. Thanks to the human face present in our time, voicing the wisdom of the ages. I'm feeling it now rather than getting my head around it, and it feels good. Thank you for such commitment to the collective awakening. I just thought this one was a beautiful one to incorporate just because of how important it is to have the tangible experience rather than just the mental understanding. Right, RJ?
Yeah. Well, thanks for reading that. All All I can say is that there's been a large body of work in this lifetime. I've written 3 books. I've created endless courses. I've created endless meditations. I do that because they're prescriptive and they are the user manual for liberation, enlightenment, and self-mastery. And it's difficult to have that kind of takeaway. It's impossible to have that kind of takeaway from watching some videos on YouTube, or it's the first time, who's this RJ guy or whatever. I implore you to explore the teachings in the books, in the classes, in the courses, because they are unlike anything. They're literally unlike anything, and they are completely and utterly transformative. But you actually have to do it, right? No more passive of watching, right? It'll teach you how to go within and create and to liberate and to empower in ways that for the finite mind are completely and utterly unimaginable.
I love when you say this is a study guide. I know I've shown this like 4 times, but that's how important this is. And here there's 24 meditations, and the meditations, you'll see a profound effect within seconds, like a tangible experience of the things that RJ talks about in the teaching. So it's like, I just love that we have this. Like I said, you said that this is the study guide. This is the work that needs to be done. I think the comment before that said, we're all ascended masters, it relieves anyone of any type of having to evolve, having to work on themselves, and I don't want to, I want to make sure that I do the work. I want to make sure that I get better. And that's the way to go, at least for me personally. So highly recommend you guys get this book if you haven't already. I just believe, and then this comment, RJ, I think is perfect timing with regards to all the things that we're talking about. I just believe the spiritual education should not cost money. That's why there's so much fighting on this planet, because of money and control. True spirituality will not blossom fully until the system of fear and money is overcome. So you want to talk a little bit about money, RJ?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that is religious conditioning. There's a lot of conditioning, and it's no one's fault. This is part of the brainwashing. Okay. Money is energy. Everything is energy. Money is energy. There's nothing right or wrong about it in any way, shape, or form. It is the medium of exchange that is used. I have looked deeply and teach a revolutionary course on this. If you look truly deeply at money, which is just energy, as everything is just energy, you will actually realize that money is innocent of everything that you accuse it of, because it's just energy. And we can take that 1,000 levels, and I do, in a course, 1,000 levels past that. Now, there's shoulds in that statement. There's lots of beliefs in that. If we look at the idea of creating our reality, okay, there is only growth when we invest in ourselves. Otherwise, everything stays the same. Nothing changes. There is no growth without investing in the self. That investment can sometimes have to do with money and sometimes not, but it's always an energetic expenditure, which is just what money is. It's the same thing. Remove the beliefs, concepts, and ideologies around money, because it's just energy. So when we invest in ourselves, what we are doing is we are sending a very powerful and important message to the universe. And the universe only says yes to whatever we emanate. It only can, because it's a mirror. It's a hall of mirrors designed for self-mastery. So whatever we're emanating, the universe says yes, and here's a lot of it. So when we invest in ourselves, the universe says absolutely, and here's a bunch of that. And that growth starts to be reflective of the outer reality. But without an investment in the self, what actually changes? Absolutely nothing. This is one of the most important things to understand. Money is just energy. That's all it is. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's an energy exchange. And it is literally infinite abundance, because the I am is abundance itself. We've gotten to the point where we are so brainwashed and traumatized that no one can no longer be wealthy and wise. Impossible now. It's somehow spiritually bad. It's amazing when the I am is infinite abundance. And I'll give a very tangible, real example of this. Breathing. Do we not have endless amounts of air, of breath, whenever we want, as much as we want, however we want? And notice that we have never given that a thought, a belief, a concept, a rumination. We formed no, listen to me, we have formed no relationship to it, and we have infinite abundance of it. Because there's no relationship to it, which means there's no constriction. Now, if we start to just apply that very basic understanding to energy itself, because everything is energy, what will happen is all of our kinks in our hose that prevents flow and abundance will become unkinked. And then it's inhale and exhale, one thing, perfect flow, no constriction, no limitation, because the I am is infinite abundance. So when we start to understand the metaphysical truth of these things, we will realize that we are abundance. And by investing in ourselves, that's the message that we send to the universe. So I feel bad every time I hear statements like that. It's just energy. It's not good or bad. It is exchange, breathing. Do you take a big inhale and you're afraid to exhale? Never. Why? You form no relationship because there's infinite abundance. Inhale, exhale. It's one thing. It's breathing. It's one thing. No constrictions, no relationships, no beliefs, no fears. Right? Imagine we operated this way with energy, with all energy. The infinite abundance of the I am would be tangible. The outer reality would reflect this abundance that we have within ourselves because we've removed the concepts and the beliefs, the constrictions of the hose that prevent true wealth in all its forms. Wealth of love, of friendship, of business, of everything. So that's why I teach that course, because it changes everything when we start to understand that it's just energy. It's not good or bad. It's a medium of exchange. That's all. This should and should nots have nothing to do with anything. They have nothing to do with anything. In fact, reciprocal nature is what is. Inhale, exhale, reciprocal. That's what is.
I would also argue when you pay attention. And a good example of this is, how many videos does RJ have on the internet? Hundreds of videos. How many videos have you watched all the way through and got all of the tangible things that were, accessible through that video? Probably not a lot, because you didn't pay for it. You didn't invest in it. And just like you said, RJ, the signal you send to the universe when that happens. So I would argue that as well. When you pay attention. You never pay for a movie and only watch half of it and walk out, right? You're going to watch that whole movie. Even if it's a bad movie, you still sit there. It's like, I paid for it. So we'll eat the popcorn and enjoy the show. The next question is, RJ, great discussion. Question: who are they trying to keep us in a dystopian reality?
You want me to name names? Is that what that is? I'm not going to. I never name names. It's irrelevant. So just look at the beings that are very, very fond of the lower frequencies. Some of them operate in a low frequency way. They like control. They like tangibility. They like authority. They just want to keep things that way. I'm keeping it very simple, and that's just the way it is. I mean, do we not, use animals in this way? Unfortunately, right? So there's this hierarchy that just keeps happening. So there are certain beings that like to keep their hands on everything. They like a sense of control, a sense of being able to manipulate, a sense of getting out of what's beneath them, what they want to get out of them. Now, it's very simple to move past this. It's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a very simple process. Self-healing is actually very simple. It's the doubting mind that complicates it. Self-realization is very simple. It's the doubting mind that complicates it. And we're not our thoughts. So there are just systems set up to keep those that are, say, operating in a certain way, and they want to stay relevant. They want to stay in control, right? That's kind of what that is. And when we work with ourselves optimally, we go right through that. And by the way, that's what that book that you keep holding up, Access Superconscious, is exactly how to move right through this whole thing, like literally. So the they, it doesn't really matter who they are. They often masquerade themselves as a good guy or a good woman, or they take a kernel of truth and then use it against you, essentially, to keep you disempowered, for you not to realize that you are free. And your only bondage is not realizing it. For you to not realize that you are infinitely powerful, that we actually create our realities. They don't want you to realize that. They want you to give your power over to a religious figure, a politician, or now maybe it'll be extraterrestrial races, right? Same thing, right? Work with yourself optimally, you move right through it.
RJ, all this is great, but where's the list at? You know what I mean? Is that or, I'm just kidding. It feels like another seeking outward, you know,
Yeah.
show me who's the guy, show me where they're at. You know what I mean? And instead, and that's the beauty of this whole interview that we're doing. I think it full circle for me, full circle moment. Like just hearing that question, you know, I'm just like, it's another seeking, looking outside, right?
Yeah. And a thing that we can do too, Justin, is that we have these burning questions like, who is it? Right? What is the agenda? Right? It's like, okay, give yourself whatever answer you want. Just give yourself whatever answer you want. Are you at peace? And did the question stop? So this is profound, right? So the answers don't matter. Why? Because the questions are irrelevant. Because we're operating from the conditioned collapsed consciousness. That's why. That's it. This is the identity, the ego mind identity. That's the I, that you're not. That you're not. And so when we don't operate that way, all this changes. Our inner life completely changes. The outer world will completely and utterly change, literally overnight. Things are the way they are because we expect them to be that way. And so when we make these changes inside, they are immediately reflected outside. And the more people that do this, the more the outer reality changes, and quickly.
I just love when you say that, RJ. Like, I've been to a bunch of RJ events, obviously. And when people get up and ask questions, it's always like, I'm struggling with this, or I feel this way, or this is what happened to me. And then RJ will say, who's the I that it happened to? Because you can't be the awareness of and that thing at the same time. Right, RJ?
Yeah, you can't be the awareness and the victim. Yeah. Right? And so we lose ourselves, and it's okay, right? That's what makes being incarnate in the lower frequencies the great challenge. We lose ourselves in the creation, right? Well, the painter's not the painting. So the I that is upset and confused, who's the I? Aren't you the awareness of the I that's asking me the question or telling me about this problem or this trauma or this? So if you were that thing, you wouldn't be able to tell me about it. You must be something other than that. You must be the awareness, the unsullied, untouched, untainted I am. Telling me about the creation. You're not the creation. Which is why none of us are affected by anything that really goes on here. The body-mind is. What you really are is completely and utterly unaffected by everything here. And that will never change because you're not the body-mind complex. So when we just point out who's the I, it's hard to stay asleep because we must be something other than the I because we're aware of it. That's why we talk about the I think this, I feel that. How could you be that if you're completely and utterly aware of it? You must be something other than that I. And we are. And when we work with ourselves in this way, it's tangible. And this is completely and utterly life-changing.
You're the time-lapse camera, baby. Come on. Dude, I'm telling you guys. I can't promote that book enough. I said it in the last interview that we did. I think it's the greatest self-help book ever written. Just for that nature. What else can you read? You read a chapter in this book and tell me that you're not changed by it. You will be immediately changed. So I think that's truth tangibly. Last comment for you, RJ. I listened to the first posting of this podcast, and my biggest takeaway was the channeling piece. Very interesting and helped me understand why the doom and gloom doesn't ever resonate with me. If I listen to my inner voice, I will stay true to myself. Thank you for the insight, RJ. I think that kind of encapsulates everything that, that interview is about. Wouldn't you say so, RJ?
Yeah, it's about liberation and empowerment. If it's not about liberation and empowerment, there's no intermediary that's required for that. There's never been an intermediary required for that. The idea of reaching out for guidance means you're disconnected from who and what you are. And the act of reaching out is how manipulation takes place. You're no longer rooted in your power. You're no longer rooted in your truth. You're seeking. And that's what the I does, the false I, the ego mind identity is constantly voracious for more and more and more information. Why? Because it doesn't authentically know anything. It's trying to balance out its complete and total ignorance with more information. And as we found out, when we give ourselves whatever answer we want to the question, we don't feel better and the questions don't stop, because it's exactly what I said it is. It is simply voracious because it is removed from the source of knowingness. And when we work in the way that we're talking about, everything changes. Your life changes. And therefore, the reality that you create changes. And this is the shift. This is the most crucial time in the history of humanity right now. Empower yourself. Liberate yourself. You are not a consumer. You are a creator. Do not put your attention on anything that is outside of the self. Once and for all, do not give in to the disempowerment of fear, chaos, madness, end times, seeking guidance. You will be used and abused. You'll have to pick out what resonates and what doesn't. This is not the optimal way to operate. It is not the optimal way to operate. It doesn't feel right, does it? It doesn't feel right to keep looking outside of yourself, does it? Does it feel, how do you feel when you're even reaching out? Examine that in this very moment, everyone, my friends, examine that now, how you feel when you're reaching out. Is it from a place of peace and completeness? Is it from a sense of freedom and empowerment? Then those are the actions not to follow. Don't continue down that path by further and further leading you astray. Recognize the truth that you are whole and complete as you are. You lack nothing. The key is to feel it tangibly and let that love and that wisdom and that power flow. And this is the shift in humanity. This is the shift in consciousness. This is the shift to a higher frequency. This is the shift that we all desire for an enlightened society, not for reaching out by going within and letting it unfold.
I'm ready for battle, RJ. Let's go. Man, that was incredible. This is where, I mean, at least for me, this is where the most truth resonates, and this is where the work needs to be done. And it's all here. We got the global meditations. We got Access Super Consciousness drop-in class coming up very soon. That'll be linked down below as well. It's all here for us to avail ourselves. And I love what you say, RJ. We can become a lighthouse for others. We can become the light in the darkness. And a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So when we fix ourselves and work on ourselves, we can actually elevate everything else, right?
Yeah, as we heal ourselves, we heal others. As we heal others, we heal ourselves. Stay tuned for the global meditation. We're going to have the tangible experience of that. This is what all this is about. It's what all this is about. It's our time. We have to seize it, not through passivity and not through being a consumer. It's the opposite, because nothing can stop humanity's liberation. Nothing.
RJ, can you give us a 50-cent word? We ended, I think, the last interview with profundity, and it was a lot of fun. And there was a lot of profundity comments. Do you have any more 50-cent words for us, you think?
The vicissitudes.
Wow. Bonus points if you could spell that right. Vicissitudes? RJ is the master of words for sure.
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
I'm not. My expertise lies elsewhere. But every now and then, like I said before, I mean, I went to school, English, and minored in creative writing. So, which seems like 26 lifetimes ago. But every now and then, it's fun to use big words. But if people don't know what you're saying, what's the point? So it's kind of like you kind of go full circle. It's like you're looking to expand your vocabulary. And then you realize, well, if most people don't know what that means, then why would you even use those words? So it's like I moved away. I mean, it was sort of fun to explore these different ways to express ourselves. We have the more expansive our vocabulary is, the more that we're able to get across subtleties within what it is that we want to share. But ultimately, if people don't know what the hell those words mean, then who are you really serving? But your own ego mind, really.
We'll just use them as good words of the day. So, what does vicissity mean? Just so we know, RJ.
Vicissitudes?
Oh, vicissitudes. I'm sorry, I'm not even saying it right.
I want you to look it up.
Okay, beautiful. If you guys made this far in the video, comment down below vicissitudes. Bonus points if you spell it correctly. And
no, use it in a sentence.
Oh, okay. I dropped my vicissitudes. Wait, let me time my vicissitudes.
Yeah, your vicissitudes are showing.
Oh God, how embarrassing!
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, anything else we want to mention with regards to this interview, RJ?
Oh, just to trust yourself, to operate in a way that you feel empowered. And just remember, whatever you put your attention on, you're giving energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. Putting your attention on anything outside of you, unless it's completely and utterly uplifting, right? Great works by great masters would be an example. But putting your attention on things that say end times, chaos is coming, madness, that is actually how that reality is created. We are so powerful that all we have to do is reclaim our power. That's all we have to do. Don't give it to a religious figure, a politician, a celebrity, an extraterrestrial, to a concept, to a belief, to an ideology. Don't give your power to anything or anyone. This is about the I am and reclaiming the truth that we are immortal, perfect, divine, whole and complete fractals of God. And now it's time to live this way and create this way.
Beautiful. RJ, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. It's always fun, Justin. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.